There's a certain mystery. Why do some people remain unshaken no matter what happens, while others fall apart at the slightest push? It's not intelligence, not status, not even experience. It's something quieter. A capacity for non-reactivity. Noise is everywhere. Words, arguments, emotions. Other people's stories flood in constantly, from screens, conversations, even our own minds. Everyone wants to be heard, yet no one's really listening. Each day begins with a rush of external demands, opinions, and expectations. It wears you down. Most don't notice the overload. They react on autopilot, getting offended, anxious, defensive. Their attention isn't deliberate. It's hijacked. Whatever grabs them, moves them, and everything has the power to affect them. Today's world is a constant call to participate. Like, comment, take a side, speak up. Silence feels almost antisocial. Disengagement is mistaken for apathy. But there's a difference. Rising above the noise doesn't mean being distant. It means protecting your inner space, not taking every bait, not entering every fight, just seeing things as they are, and choosing what deserves your energy. Those who master this may seem indifferent, but it's not apathy. It's attention discipline. They don't chase every headline. They don't argue just to prove a point. They don't lose sleep over opinions that don't matter. They understand noise isn't the enemy, but it's not the guide either. It will always be there. But how deep it gets in, that's up to you. Strength isn't about controlling everything outside. It's about not losing yourself inside it. The noise stays, but you're no longer in it. Most people live in a constant state of readiness to react. They're not in control of themselves. External triggers are. A single word, a glance, a stray opinion can shift their mood, throw them off balance. Reactivity feels natural. But in reality, it's a habit. There's no conscious choice, just a reflex, like a button. Press it, and it responds. There's no freedom in that, just a loop of familiar reactions. A reactive mind is a vulnerable mind. It depends on the environment, on others' emotions, on the tone of a room. Everything sticks, everything stings, and it creates the illusion of control, as if being involved in every situation gives you power. But it doesn't. It drains it. The more you react, the less steady you become. You waste time and energy trying to be right, to prove your side, to explain yourself. You get pulled into endless micro-conflicts that don't actually matter. Those who begin to see this mechanism shift their behavior. They stop reacting to everything. Instead of an answer, there's a pause. Instead of an impulse, awareness. Not out of fear, but maturity. They understand. Not everything deserves a response. That's where real strength begins. Calmness becomes a conscious choice, not just a passing mood. A space appears between stimulus and reaction. And in that space is freedom. The one who doesn't react to everything isn't weak. They've simply stopped wasting themselves on things that don't matter. Some people seem to carry silence with them. Around them, there's no need to rush, interrupt, or prove anything. They don't radiate tension. They're not trying to be heard, yet people listen. They're not seeking attention, yet they're noticed. It feels like they're rooted in something deep, something untouched by external chaos. That's the inner center of gravity, an invisible anchor a person leans on, regardless of the situation. It has nothing to do with job titles, social status, or even confidence. It's what happens when your attention is no longer scattered. When you stop trying to hold everything together, because you already feel held from within. Most people live outside themselves. Their focus constantly shifts from approval to irritation, from expectations to fear. This makes them fragile. One wrong look, one unmet expectation, and their balance is gone. Their mood shifts. Their energy goes into regaining control, or at least the appearance of it. That's how dependency on circumstances forms. As long as everything goes according to plan, they feel fine. But plans rarely survive reality. Someone says the wrong thing. Events don't unfold as expected. What once felt stable starts to shake, and with it, their inner state falls apart. When your center of gravity is external, you begin to rely on outer props: work, recognition, success, relationships. These things can provide stability, but only temporarily, because your ground is still out there, and it can disappear at any moment. Bringing that center back inside isn't about isolation or detachment. It's about attention, about honesty with yourself, about no longer shape-shifting to fit in when it's unnecessary, about not getting caught up in every reaction that doesn't deserve your energy. When a person returns to themselves, the tension fades. The need to prove disappears. They still live, connect, work, love, but it comes from a different place. Not from lack, but from wholeness. Not from fear of losing, but from clarity about who they are. That's what creates stability. Quiet, unassuming strength. You feel calm around someone like that, not because they try to control the room, but because they don't need to. They're simply present, rooted, not in ego, but in awareness. And that's real power. Not the ability to control everything, but the ability to stay grounded when nothing is in your control. People naturally want to influence what happens around them. We make plans, set goals, and expect certain responses. We believe that if things go according to plan, we'll feel more at ease. It creates the illusion that more control means more safety. But life rarely plays by the script. Messages go unanswered. Plans fall apart. Circumstances shift. People behave in unexpected ways. And when the script breaks, so does our sense of stability. Control feels like a shield, but more often, it becomes a source of tension. Because the world doesn't bend to our preferences, it's too complex, too alive. Trying to hold everything together drains us. It makes us irritable, sensitive to small things, stuck in a cycle of worry and anticipation. The paradox is this: control doesn't remove uncertainty, it just hides the fear of it. People live on alert, constantly monitoring, predicting, adjusting. It feels like action, but it's actually stress in disguise. It keeps them busy, but not steady. Real strength isn't about anticipating everything. It's about staying grounded when nothing can be predicted. Strong people know what's within their influence and what isn't. They don't confuse the two. That's why they don't burn out trying to manage everything. When attention shifts from controlling the outside to finding clarity inside, life gets simpler. The need to fight reality fades. So does the anxious need to anticipate every outcome. What's left is a calm acceptance of how things unfold, not out of passivity, but out of presence. This isn't apathy, it's maturity. It's the ability to be involved without becoming attached, to act without clinging, to let go, not because you don't care, but because you understand you were never meant to control everything. Sometimes, things start to move only when you stop forcing them. Not because you gave up, but because you made space. No pressure, no tension, no fight. And in that space, something more natural can emerge. Not from effort, but from flow. Control doesn't disappear. It just becomes precise. It shows up in conscious actions, not constant tension. That's what grounded detachment really is. The ability to stay connected to yourself when life doesn't go as planned. In a world that constantly demands your reaction, choosing not to engage is a rare strength. Messages expect replies, News feeds beg for your attention. Opinions are shouted like sirens. You start to feel like you must respond to everything to stay relevant, to keep up, to not fall behind. But that's the trap. Constant engagement is a form of dependency. It drains your focus, scatters your energy, and leaves you depleted. You become reactive, arguing, explaining, absorbing noise that was never yours. Slowly, your inner state begins to mirror the chaos around you. True detachment isn't about being cold, it's about choice. The choice to not step into every emotional storm, the choice to skip arguments that lead nowhere, to stop justifying yourself to people who don't actually listen, to not absorb every signal, every jab, every surge of someone else's frustration. It's not avoidance, it's conscious conservation. You begin to understand not everything deserves your attention. Not every message needs a reply. Not every reaction is worth the energy. And this doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you more present for what truly matters. Ironically, it's often the calmest people, the ones who don't overreact, who seem the most confident. You can feel their steadiness. They're not pulled in 10 directions. They don't bounce from one irritation to the next. They aren't baited by noise, and that composure earns respect. The freedom not to engage is a kind of inner order. It's the clarity to know what matters and what's just distraction. It's the discipline to not make yourself endlessly available. It's the quiet strength to stay grounded, even when emotions, complaints, and manipulation swirl around you. People with this mindset don't fear being out of the loop. They don't measure their worth by how quickly they respond. They're not afraid to miss a moment because they're focused on what's lasting, not what's loud. And that's what makes them free. They can choose to engage, but only when it's worth it. They can respond, but only if it's necessary. They don't over-explain. They don't defend everything. They don't perform. They simply live in alignment with themselves. This isn't armor, it's clarity. It's a kind of inner space where noise doesn't stick. A space where you can still hear yourself. And in that space lives real strength. There are people in whose presence everything feels calmer. They don't need to impress, to persuade, or to prove anything. They move without frenzy, speak without excess, and seem to stand on solid ground, even when the world around them trembles. What's happening outside doesn't shake them, because inside there is order. This kind of steadiness isn't innate. It's cultivated, shaped by experience, refined through disappointment, and reinforced by a repeated choice to return to themselves. It's not a shield from the world, but a quiet understanding that the world will always change, and yet the inner axis can remain. Such a person doesn't lean on circumstances for balance. They don't root their well-being in what can be lost: success, attention, approval. Their "I'm okay" doesn't depend on the weather, the headlines, or someone else's mood. And that makes them unshakable, because what's built inside can't be taken by what's outside. The detachment they practice isn't apathy, it's maturity. They don't switch on anxiety when the world says so. They don't organize their life around other people's expectations. That gives them freedom. The freedom to act not out of fear, but out of intention. They don't feel the need to explain what they feel. They don't harden to protect themselves. They know softness isn't weakness, it's awareness. And in that softness, too, there is strength. They're comfortable with silence. They don't rush to fill every pause, don't fear the stillness, don't need constant external validation. Their day isn't determined by the news cycle. Their plans aren't reactions to someone else's behavior. Their choices aren't driven by the need to prove anything to the world. That inner balance gives them lightness. They don't carry unnecessary burdens. They don't live in a constant state of proving. They're not racing to catch up. They simply do what's theirs to do, and that is enough. From the outside, this may look simple, even too simple, but behind it lies deep inner work. The discipline not to react to everything. The clarity to separate the essential from the noise. The courage to let go of the unnecessary. The strength to return to themselves again and again. A true indifference is not giving up. It's not saying, "I don't care." It's knowing where not to spend your soul. It's understanding that strength is not control, it's presence. It's not reaction, but awareness. Not tension, but peace. This is someone who is stable beyond circumstance. And that's why, no matter the storm, they remain themselves. If this felt helpful, subscribe. Check out the previous videos. They build on the same idea. No noise, no pressure, just the essence